Welcome into the Pats Nation. I'm Corso. Catone is here. Joe's with us in the booth. You are watching us on YouTube, listening on iHeart Radio, Apple Podcasts, 790 The Score. Anyway you podcast, you're going to be able to catch us. And listen, when you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Hit that little thumbs up. Give us that like. That's what we appreciate. So make sure you're doing that. Leave a comment. Joe will pull some of those and read them on the air. And give us a call and heated hotline, 855-313-PATS, P-A-T-S. It's a message line, 24/7. Leave a message. We will pick one. Let it be yours or email us in our mailbag, corso.catone@gmail.com. Got a good one, got a busy one. We're going to go QB breakdown, talk about Drake Maye, how he looked in OTAs. Then we're going to go back in the weekly rewind, talk about those said OTAs and some of the other things, talking about Diggs, who actually was in camp. So we'll talk about him a little bit. Coach's Corner, see how they're using these guys and what we can expect. And then we're going to go Pat's preview, talk about our breakdown of the linebacker room like we've been doing for all the positions, getting through them. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, guys.
How are you?
Oh, am I? How are you? I mean, after yesterday's debacle.
Listen, let's just hope it's better than yesterday. I had more friggin' technical issues yesterday. Oh, my God. Let's hope.
Huh, Joe?
Let's hope.
I don't know. Mercury's not even here yet.
It's not in retrograde either, Joe. Imagine.
Oh, Christ. Joe, you got him doing all that now.
I know.
Come on. Listen.
I don't buy any of that.
It's something. I don't know.
Are we going to show him videos this week? Any good videos?
He's just pissed because we didn't do Catone's comments yesterday. So he sabotaged this whole setup.
Joe, if I thought about it, I would have. That was a good idea.
Son of a bitch.
Hey, what pissed me off? You didn't even tell the viewers until things went crazy with the technical stuff. Then you decided. Joe said, we didn't do Catone's comments this week because you didn't even bring it up. No respect, Joe. No respect.
None whatsoever.
Joe had to bring it up.
Corso and the rest of us.
I'm quitting. I'm quitting the show. This is my last show, everyone. Just so you all right, listen, we got a lot to get to. Let's stop screwing around, guys, before all his equipment goes out. Let's get the QB breakdown. Joe.
Okay, now.
Hit it, boys.
Hit it, boys. Hit it, boys. All right. So, OTAs, Mark. Now, make sure you stay awake here. I know it's early in the morning.
Listen, I'm going to have to try. It's early. Well, listen, pretty soon we're going to be tailgating in the mornings. The game should be starting.
Hey, I wanted to ask this yesterday. By the way, can we pretend that it's Maye's first year? I mean, he's basically into all of this like he's a rookie right now. Can we look at it like that?
He pretty much is.
Team, you know what I mean?
Pretty much is, because, he's learning a whole new offense. He's looked better in week 2 than he did in week 1. Would you say that, Mark?
He did. Yeah, he looked better in this week's OTAs. Yeah.
Absolutely. So in the where they allowed the media in, I believe it was June 2nd on Tuesday.
Yep.
Maye was 14 of 16 and 11, so he looked sharp. He looked pretty good for all reports.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of it?
It's a working. Well, listen, as you always say, Chris, shorts and T-shirts, how much can you glean from that, right? However, I do think.
Well, we have a show to do, so.
No. But I do think because of the type of offense that McDaniels is running, it's a progression, right? He's going to get better as time goes on, as he absorbs, learns. I don't think he was rushed this week, Chris. I don't think he pressed this week. I think he was able to read the field better. I think in the media portion of OTAs this week, he looked much more comfortable. I think they threw a lot at him last week to see what he could absorb. And that's what McDaniels does. And I think I know some of the local guys were giving him ratings, and I don't know if we're going to play that audio, but I think it's a work in progress, Chris. I'm not worried about Drake Maye. I don't know about you. Because he's getting good coaching, Chris, so I'm not worried about it.
There's a couple of things. that I look at, and I look at he throws the good deep ball.
Yeah.
Okay. We haven't seen too many issues with his deep ball.
No.
And, the short routes on the move a little bit. There's a little accuracy issue there. What I want to see, and I brought this up yesterday a little bit, what I would like to see is how are these deeper intermediate routes, 20-yard in cut, 20-yard out cuts, 15-yard comeback routes, 15-yard back shoulder throws.
Yeah.
Those are the throws that I feel like we need to see more of, and we need to see more consistency on that. You?
Yeah. And those are staples, Chris, in this offense. What you just mentioned, the staples, right, of this offense. So you have to do that to be successful in a Josh McDaniels offense. And so those are the things he's going to have to show moving forward that he's capable of doing on a consistent basis. Because last year, Chris, what you just described really wasn't part of Alex Van Pelt's playbook. So he didn't have to do much of that last year. And granted, he didn't have the receivers that could do it either. Don't get me wrong.
Right. Okay. So we heard from a lot of people this week, but I haven't heard much from McDaniels, but we did hear from him this week. Joe?
He's doing really well. He's very smart, works really hard. I think the quarterback room in general is really, really good in terms of putting the time and effort in at this point in time of the year. And like I said, we either make a good play or we learn from the result. And so sometimes as a coach, and nobody wants to hear this, but sometimes as a coach, the negative results can actually be your best teachers because you have a play where something didn't necessarily go your way or the right way. And then you learn from it. And then the biggest key for us as we go forward is when we learn from a mistake is can we go out there the next day and not repeat the same error? And so I think he's doing a really good job of digesting the information, processing the corrections when there is a correction to be made, and then go out there with a great attitude and mindset the next day.
Yeah. So, and obviously that's what you want to see. You want to see make mistakes and learn from mistakes. I agree with him. This is the time you want the mistakes to happen because that's how you, yesterday on the show, you were, yeah. Obviously that's what you're doing. You make mistakes, you learn from the mistakes. You don't make the same one twice, which I think he's good at not doing. And Mark, he's in and out of the huddle well. Things look crisp. He's was obviously much better in week 2. Threw a nice wheel route to Rondé Stevenson in on 11s, and Stevenson made a good catch.
And those balls, that ball he threw, Chris, on that wheel route, those are the balls you mentioned a few minutes ago that he's good at throwing. He's good at those throws.
Right. Yeah, the deeper routes and but again, the things that we're looking for that we need to see are going to be in that intermediate because look, you got a guy like Diggs in here. Okay.
Yep.
That's what he's going to do. That's what he's going to bring you. No,
absolutely. That's what Diggs is going to bring you. So you can't depend on, anything else. That's what Diggs is giving you, Chris. I don't think Diggs is going to give you that's going to be the majority of his routes. I think that's why he's going to line up out there and do. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens now as far as managing the expectations moving forward. So we talked a lot about, the turnovers from last year. So you say, okay, well, we'll go from one year to the next year and see if we can clean those up. Do you think it's more of him? I had nothing. I know I have nothing. So I'm just going to make what I can make out of whatever I have. And this was his mindset last year. And now hopefully it's going to be more of I'm working in the framework of an offense, a real offense, to be able to sit in the pocket. You think that that's something he can get to, or you think he's going to still create his own pressure, get out when he doesn't have to get out of the pocket,
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I think, Chris, last year, I don't want to say that he didn't work in the confines of a real offense. I think Van Pelt did develop him, Chris, and got him comfortable in the pocket, took away some of the habits that he had. So in that sense, I do think he got something out of last year. Was the offense limited? Yes. My question is, did it have to be limited because of the personnel you had? I mean, could Van Pelt have thrown anything more out there because what did you have to run it with? Could be an argument, but you are right, though, Chris. I think now he is working in the confines of a much more complex offense where there are more pieces to it and more options to it, and there's more reads to it as Brady had to constantly, and whoever's running McDaniels' offense, there are reads to it, but there's also, Chris, for the entire offense, for those receivers, there's going to be read options. So the receivers are going to have to do some understanding and reading as well, Chris. So, this is a much more complex offense than what they were given to work with. A lot of option routes. Are these receivers even capable of doing that? I mean, Diggs, I believe Diggs is, but I'm talking about as a group. I don't know.
Well, we're going to talk about them in the next segment too. But we had some other people around the New England area. Some of the reporters. We had Callahan of the Herald. He had some things to say about Maye. Joe?
And not just because the completion percentage was about 88%, take that for what it's worth, basically nothing. He got more aggressive as the practice went on. So feasted on the checkdowns, you could see the confidence coming through. And for a day like today, which Josh told us it wasn't in that clip, they worked a lot of brand new concepts that Josh himself is not familiar with. For a guy to read through the defense, attack downfield, 5 completions by my count of 10 yards or longer out of the 14, it's a good day. Okay. He had a couple of passes that were behind receivers, another that got tipped. That was then caught. So when you're talking about a guy with all the talent in the world, again, starting, his first 7 completions were all easy. Check down, screens, slant here or there. Then when it got downfield, it got better. But there's just another level with this kid. And there were some checks that he made, including one big pass to Rhamondre Stevenson, recognized the man blitz that was coming, made the hand signal on the deep pass. Stevenson makes his fingertip catch where you're going, okay, that's a little closer on the money. He kept running. He tumbled forward, made the catch anyway. But that's a play you credit the receiver more than the quarterback.
See, that's one of those. And that was Andrew Callahan of the Herald, and also on 98.5. What I like about what he said there, and I picked out, was the hand signal.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, right. Yep.
The recognition of the defense, making the signal out to Rhamondre Stevenson, and then executing it.
Chris, he also brought something interesting up, which I didn't realize. He said McDaniels. They were introducing some new concepts that were even new to McDaniels. So is he trying to tweak and change what his offense is, Chris? McDaniels, I'm saying. Because that was an interesting comment that they were new to McDaniels.
Yeah, and in Coach's Corner, we're going to get into some of that, where the other coaches are bringing some different concepts to the table. You're talking about Dowling, you're talking about Marone, that are bringing some play concepts that McDaniels has no idea.
Yeah.
And they're basically teaching him, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
It just goes back to the whole, we could talk more about it in Coach's Corner, but it goes back to the whole, is this really Vrabel's guy? Was it really Vrabel's guy? Or did
you're going to go back. Well, we can discuss it in Coach's Corner, though. Yeah.
Put a pin in that for a second. But as far as what he had to say about Maye, it's what we talked about. I mean, the play recognition, to be able to work within the confines of this type of offense is hard. I will say, the last thing I'll say is the tight end is his friend, and he developed something with Hunter Henry last year.
Yeah.
And I think that only gets stronger now, because in this type of an offense, the tight end is your friend as a quarterback.
It is. So, and he's going to develop that even more of that chemistry, I think, Chris, with Henry, because right now Hoop is not even there. Hoop has been out of OTAs. I don't know if he's got a injury, personal. I don't know what it is, but he's been out, right? I think it's an injury. He's been out.
They're going to trade him. They're going to trade him to Atlanta with a second-round pick or third-round pick for next year, and to get Pitts.
Yeah, they're going to get Pitts, all right. Yeah, right. Yeah, wouldn't that be something, right? No, so you're right, Chris. And this has been an opportunity for some of the other tight ends to step up, but you really haven't heard of any other tight ends stepping up, Chris, at these OTAs, right?
No. And we're going to get into that when we talk a little bit more about the offense in Weekly Rewind coming up next, and in Coach's Corner. But QB Breakdown was presented by Corso and Catone, Saturdays, noon Eastern. Hey, we got it all. When our equipment's working right, we got it all.
Oh, you got to keep bringing that up, don't you?
We got Catone's comments. We got Yankees, Red Sox, Bruins, Celtics, and the Patriots, of course. So make sure you're tuning into that. But when we come back, going to go back in the week in Weekly Rewind, talk digs, talk OTAs. No flipping.
Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more Corso and Catone.
Saturdays at noon.
Back in with more Pats Nation. Okay, so Diggs was there. Diggs showed up, Mark.
He showed up. Well, what was he going to do? Well, listen, there were some circumstances around him showing up, we think, right?
Well, let's get into it in Weekly Rewind, Joe. I'm getting it. Going back through the week. About a Weekly Rewind. Okay, so as we said, Diggs showed up on that. Was it the Tuesday? Anyway,
Yep.
He showed up to the OTAs. It was waving to the people. Was ready to go. And we want to hear from the history of this. Because you heard, Breer, you heard Scott Zolak, Tom Curran. They all had kind of a different view of this when this all happened. Now, you and I said when all this hit the fan, when I got you out of your phone looking at that video that you just kept staring at over and over and over again.
Listen, there's a new video. There's a new video with Cardi B where he's slapping booty. I was going to get it, but
what the hell does that mean?
What do you mean? What does that mean? I'm not going to get it.
Listen, what the frick does that mean?
This is a G-rated show. I can't get into that.
Listen, he's showing
if I gave the video to Joe, there'd be nothing else on the screen. You wouldn't even see the two of us. He would just have us on YouTube. He would just have that video playing, Chris.
This is true.
I'm going to have to look that up, what that means.
Wasn't he showing how to get separation?
Yeah.
He was teaching her how to run a comeback route.
It was a comeback route. It was a go route. Yeah. Hey, they were hand checking.
Beat her right off the line. So, okay.
No pun intended.
I don't even know what the word pun means. So, all right.
We're off the rails, Jim.
Yeah, we got a lot of problems. Well, you know what, then? Let's hear from Burt Breer and Zolak and Curran, Joe.
Sort of think all things are on the table. And I think it's really, to me at least, it's going to boil down to what Steph told Vrabel and how believable it was.
It is on the table. That it is being thought of. And it's not just the boat. It's not just the boat. There's some other things that I've heard. That's all.
Tell us what it is, Zolak.
Yeah.
Are you all in? Are you all in here?
Refute either guy entirely and say there was never a table that was set up and his name was on it. But as of this morning, I was basically told there is no table and there is no Stephon Diggs on said table. So certainly whatever transpired with Diggs, perhaps in the days leading into today with Mike Vrabel, with the team, whatever occurred, whatever his level of participation was today, indicating that he was putting to bed anything or any maybe worries about his commitment. I'm told there's no table now. They're not moving on from Stephon Diggs.
And around we go.
But that's what you get over here. No information at all. I will say
we all said a lot of nothing.
Lot of nothing. And you said it yesterday. It was the first time I heard that about the fact that his contract. I didn't know that. You know what I mean? And I know you're going to get into it. So we're going to get into it. You know what I mean? The fans, just so they don't think that I'm sounding like one of these people on the flagship.
Well, yeah, and put a pin in that for a second because we're going to hear from Mike Florio, about the contract situation. But backing up a little bit on that, Mark, fine. Okay. So, look, you and I had this last week. We talked about this, okay? And we said flat out, they're not releasing this guy. It's just not going to happen. And I'll tell you this right now. Even if he didn't show up on Tuesday, they still weren't releasing him.
Well, you said this, Chris, last week that they weren't. Well, I don't know if he didn't show up, Chris. I don't know about that, but maybe. But you said last week they weren't going to get rid of him. You said they don't give a shit about the boat. What these guys brought up is, Zolak brings up there were other issues. They said he was non-existent, and that's what you brought up. You said last week, Mark, it's more of an issue. Where is he? He's not here. He's not, because Vrabel referenced last week about almost the old Belichick line of, we'll talk about the players that are here. And that was kind of what Vrabel kind of insinuated last week, and you brought this up, and you said, Mark, that's what he's pissed off about. He probably addressed the boat with him, but like make smarter decisions. But he really don't give a shit about the boat. He gives a shit that he's not there with his teammates. He's not, working with his teammates, helping his teammates,
rehabbing at the team facility. It was more about that and being a good teammate than it was what the hell happened on that boat. You said it last week. You said, Mark, they don't give a shit about the boat. Because the boat is a piece of the bigger picture. That's the point. So it's not the boat. The boat in a vacuum.
Yeah.
But when you take the boat, like you just said, you couple it with the other stuff, and you put it together in the puzzle, with him not being there, that becomes the issue.
Yeah.
So I don't know if showing up saved him. I'm not sure. We heard from Adam Schefter of ESPN. This is what he had to say.
Showing up today felt about as mandatory as it could be after, of course, the viral video over the last several days of Stephon Diggs on a boat with many women, including Cardi B, including an envelope with some pink stuff that I don't have any idea what that is, and you would hope that he doesn't either, but that's a whole different conversation for a whole different day. Mike Vrabel addressed this last week, saying he was aware of the viral video, talks to his players every day, but yeah, they want the players to make sound decisions. Him showing up, him getting in line, him expressing what, of course, he needed to express to the team right to their faces was all a very good thing. Now, my understanding is the team does not plan to cut Stephon Diggs. He's a very good player. They intend to pay him a lot of money. They haven't yet. They intend to pay him a lot of money, especially after he passed the physical from his ACL recovery. It does seem to be on track. This is a player they want to keep, want to be making plays for them. That's why they signed him in free agency to such fanfare. Just got to be better, and this was a step in the right direction for Diggs, and certainly something the Patriots welcomed.
And that was Adam Schefter of ESPN. They intend to pay him a lot of money. That's a huge factor. Because here's my question. And this now gets into some of what Joe was talking about, and we'll hear from Florio specifically on the contract issues. But we say, okay, showing up saved him from being released. Okay. But is the reason he showed up because he hasn't been paid yet? See the Patriots are holding the cards here. Yeah. It's one of these contracts that they did a good job team-wise in this. It's funny too, because it's funny how the puppets out there give them all kinds of crap and shit for their contracts all the time. How cheap they are, all this. Now it's, hey, it was pretty savvy, pretty sharp, Patriots. Pretty sharp to put all that stuff in there about the doctor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is the reason Diggs was there because he knows that he's got to get cleared by a Patriots doctor for the knee, and that's their leverage?
Oh, I'm sure that played a big part in it, Chris. Absolutely.
Otherwise, would he tell him to go pound sand?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure that's a big part of it, Chris. At this point, I know, okay, nobody cares about the video. I get it. It's still a bad look if now all of a sudden you don't
look great. It looked great. Partying, shaking your ass, all of it. Fantastic.
Okay, wonderful. Listen, you're lost. Would you let me finish, please? No. So, but it's a bad look in this sense, Chris. So what you're saying is right. It's true, right? So he doesn't show up. Says, you know what? I screw it. I'm staying down in Miami. I'm rehabbing. I'm not coming to OTAs. And now he gets into a pissing contest, and they say, you know what? Good. Well, you know what? You can't pass your physical. Nobody can see how you're rehabbing. Our doctors can't examine you. You're done. You're released. We're not giving you any more money. If that would have happened, well, at this point, Chris, it's June. There wasn't really a market for him.
Right.
That's why the Patriots got him, not only for this amount of money, but in this type of a deal. If he had a market, do you think he would have signed this kind of a deal with the Patriots? He wouldn't have signed this kind of a deal. There was no market for him. So he definitely had to show up, Chris, because he wants to make sure he gets paid, because he can't say, screw you, release me, I'll go play for somebody else. There was no market for him.
Yeah.
People were banging down the doors. That's why we got him at this cost.
Right. And to me, that's one of the reasons he's there. That's one of the reasons he's not released. Because, the Patriots could say, oh, okay, well, we can release him. We got reason to. We could just have our doctor say he didn't pass the physical, and we're good. We don't have to pay him. Maybe it goes to arbitration, whatever, But, like they did with Antonio Brown. We'll hear from Florio in a second. But the ownership is sitting there saying, this is the only egg we got in this basket of crap, of rotten eggs. We got a basket of rotten eggs.
You mean the receiver room?
Right.
Yeah.
We got a basket of rotten eggs, and this is the only – I like that analogy. And this is the only good egg we have. And he only costs $12 million. Because you could be sure as hell if this was Metcalf.
I was going to say, if he had DK Metcalf money, you don't think they would – of course they would have got out of that contract.
No, because then they could come out and say, okay, this is the best of all worlds. We don't have to pay this guy, right? We could tell everybody that we tried.
Yeah.
But it's his fault. And that's why. Because they know they can't sell anything without this guy in that wide receiver room. They can't sell anything. So it's worth more to them, with the small black eye that it is. That's what I think it's about for the team. But for him being there, well, let's hear what Florio had to say. Joe.
Don't believe they can just say, we're ripping up the contract, you haven't passed the physical yet. But the way the contract's written, it's within the full and complete discretion of the doctor who is employed by the Patriots to decide whether or not his knee is good to go. And the way you can just see the language, it was specifically put in there so they can use that trigger to say, nope, you don't pass our physical. You might pass theirs. Right. You might pass theirs. You might pass theirs. You don't pass ours. It's over. It's done. You get nothing. Good day, sir. And that may be their way out of this. Now, they could buy themselves a grievance like they did with Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown had a $9 million signing bonus. After they cut him, following one game, they said, we're not paying you anything. It went into the NFLPA grievance process and they settled it for $5 million. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe they stiff him and he's got to file the grievance, and at some point down the line it gets settled. But there's at least enough play in the contract where they could do that. And hey, are you all in to rehab your knee? Are you doing what's necessary to rehab your knee? That's how you lay the foundation to ultimately say, we can't pass you on a physical because you didn't properly rehab your knee.
And that was Mike Florio of NBC Sports. Mark, the difference between Antonio Brown and this situation was Tom Brady. See, you didn't need Antonio. They didn't care. Guy, I don't need to pay this guy. I already got the names I need to put the asses in the seats and everybody's buying stuff and, who cares?
Yeah.
But now, again, the only egg in a basket of rotten ones. Well, but again, would Antonio Brown, would Stephon Diggs be here if he had already gotten the $12 million? Would he have come to camp? Would he even care what they think about that boat?
Probably not. No, he would have said, "I'm rehabbing. What do you guys want me to do? I mean, I can't participate in OTAs. I'm down here with my doctors."
That needs to be my rehab plan. My back hurts.
But
get the boat out.
So yeah, and so but listen, Chris, to play devil's advocate, allegedly he was a model teammate in Houston.
Yeah,
was helping out the younger guys,
which you saw him doing in OTAs this week. Yeah,
which when we get more into the OTAs and the receivers, we saw him doing that OTAs. So. But with that said, well, then why didn't Houston bring him back? I don't know, right? That's a whole other question.
Yeah, I think it's because you had two guys coming off serious injuries. You have Tank Dell coming off a bad one, and they're not getting rid of him. And then you have this guy coming off an ACL, and he's 32.
No, that's true.
I lean more on that than
that's true. But he was supposedly a model citizen last year, Chris, and a great teammate. So,
he didn't have the off-field stuff anyway. He was a pain in the ass, he was a pain in the ass on the field in the locker room
because he was a diva,
right? Which is fine. I mean, whatever.
Look, these guys who were number ones used to be number one. Whatever when he was with Minnesota, he was a one. Well, that's what those guys are. They're divas. That's why they're ones.
So what this tells me then is, and by the way, he didn't pass any physical yet, which is why he couldn't be in the actual team drills.
Yeah, he didn't pass anything yet. You're right.
But this begs this is going to continue. This is not a period at the end of the sentence. I think we're going to this Stephon Diggs thing. This is round instance one. I think once he gets that money, I think you're going to see more of a pain in the ass.
Okay, but there is a time clock on, I think, when that money has to be paid out. So at some point they have to make a decision. And I think it's before training camp, Chris. I think he's due money.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to figure out if he passes a physical or not at some point. And I think it's before August.
I have a strong suspicion, and I hope I'm wrong, because everybody says he looks great, and we're going to get to in the next segment. We'll talk about it, and I'll leave it here. I have a strong suspicion, Mark, that he's going to get his money, and there's going to be some, and I'm using air quotes for people on the radio, setback. And he's going to end up on the PUP list.
Okay. Mark, did he just curse it, or is he predicting
my whole
future?
It doesn't matter. My whole existence is a curse. So we'll see what happens there. But put a pin in that. We're going to talk about some more of this on the other side. But Weekly Rewind was presented by Corso Law Group, CorsoLawGroup.com. When we come back, going to go in the coach's room. Coach's Corner is next.
No one ever thinks they will be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys.
Back in with more Pats Nation. Okay, let's get it. Want to go in the coach's room now? I think so. That's fun. That's always fun. Joe?
Let's do it.
Coach's Corner.
All right, so we talked about Diggs ad nauseum. He's there. He looked good, Mark.
Yeah, he did.
I mean,
he looked good.
But you noticed some of the help. You mentioned it a little bit already about how the model citizen he was in Houston and what he did for the young guys. What did you see this week?
So a couple of things, Chris. He was seen running some drills, and listen, they let you see whatever you want to see, right? But there was a couple of instances where two things that stood out to me with Diggs. He was running a drill with Kayshon Boutte, and it was a drill where they had like a large ball in their hand, and they throw it forward, and then they run to a cone, they hook, they lateral, they come back, and then they run straight out. And Boutte was to the left of him, and he was to the right of him, and they go through this drill, and Diggs has to slow down because Diggs was probably going to run up his back. So Diggs was ready to roll, and he's not even cleared yet, right? So for full participation, and he's almost running up Boutte's back. The second thing was he was doing some drill with Dowling, the wide receivers coach, and Jalen Polk was there as well. And Polk, he's got Polk grabbing at him, and he's kind of simulating running, very slow speed, but simulating it. And he's got Polk grabbing at him, and he shows Polk how, as his hands are moving up, you do a swipe, push the hand away from you, and spin back for the ball. And he did it like twice, 3 times, and Dowling's there. And that wasn't for Diggs. I think they were trying to show Polk how you get separation when someone's got their hands on you. Because my guess is, Polk has been injured, right? So I don't know how much he's actually involved in the actual, 11s, 7-on-7s. He's probably with Diggs doing work on their own, doing some drills, but not part of the team activities. But that was for Polk's edification, Chris, because he probably wasn't doing something correctly, and Dowling was having Diggs model it for him.
Yeah, because Polk sucks.
Because Polk sucks, yes.
I mean, I wonder what he's thinking. I wonder when he looks at these guys, what's going through his head.
Well, like I said, Chris, before the Polk story,
it's a far cry from Tank Dell and Nico Collins.
And Nico Collins. And Chris, the drill he was running with Butte, he hasn't cleared, the medicals yet. Obviously, Diggs, like you said in the last segment, he's almost running up Butte's back. Like he would have went by him if he could have. So what is that? That's not a good look for Butte.
No, it's not. And we're going to get to that in a second. But first, I want to hear from Alex Barth, 98.5 on the offense and a little bit of May. Joe?
Yesterday was their best day. Yesterday was their best day so far, especially on offense. Everything just looked there's more rhythm to it. There's more cohesion to it. You didn't have any moments. And there haven't been a ton, but there were some in the first two that we saw where it's like, all right, we got to make sure we have the formation right or the subs right in and out. Yesterday was seamless. Yesterday with Drake Maye in there, up and down the field, ball didn't hit the ground. They got a ton of plays in. Yesterday was the day you're really looking for when we talk about some of those more lofty win projections, over 500, getting into double digits. A lot of that banks on, is Drake Maye going to take this next step, or some of the other young guys on offense going to take this next step? And in theory, yesterday is kind of what you picture when you picture that next step.
Grade the quarterback so far.
Like C+, B minus, C+, somewhere in there. Like, look, he threw 4 picks in that first one. That's obviously not great. And even though he was turnover free in the second, I still thought his accuracy was kind of here and there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of that. I mean, and the grade too. You turn the ball over, you're going to get a bad grade, and that's the thing coming in with May. And we talked about May, but he mentions the other young guys. Okay, and he talks a little bit about that. So where I want to get to now is I want to talk about the wide receivers.
Yep.
Isn't it funny, Mark? Isn't it funny how we care now? And when I say we, I don't mean we on this show, but collectively out there, they care a lot about the wide receiver now, Mark. Wow. Isn't that something, huh? Son of a bitch.
Don't get me started with the wide receiver.
Oh, get started. Go.
Don't get me started.
Listen,
it's too early in the morning.
Throw up your Bloody Mary,
It's too early in the morning. Listen, Chris, you saw drills. It wasn't even part of the team activity. You saw drills already where Polk and Baker are dropping balls. First 2 guys threw the drill, both dropped balls. Like,
right.
Really? I mean,
and those are indies. Those are just individual works.
Yes.
They're not even.
You don't think Dowling and McDaniels and Vrabel are noticing that? They must be like, who the hell drafted these 2 stiffs?
Right.
Right?
And you got Peckerwood over there in the background, Elliot Wolf, who's
listen. The only reason Polk sticks on this team, Chris, is because he was a 2nd-round draft pick, and it'll make Wolf look really bad, considering you traded out of the spot where you could have taken McConkey.
I think he's gone. I don't think Vrabel gives a rat's ass about
you don't think
that.
Vrabel cares? Okay.
No.
All right.
No. I think Elliot Wolf, this is it for him anyway. His drafts stink. Well, we'll see what happened here.
We'll see. But can he take credit for this draft? Or was that Vrabel's team? I don't.
Well, he said that they had an argument, had a disagreement up at the so at the top of the draft. I don't know, but so when it comes to the wide receivers, yeah, I mean, look, and I want to hear. We're going to hear again from Barth in a second on the wideouts. But for you, well, breaking down the room and as far as who's going to be on this team, you first have to talk about, well, what are the positions. What are the wide receiver positions? And this is where the puppets always fall short in actually explaining what the hell it even means. Talking about the X, the Z, the Y, all that crap. And what does it mean? I think everybody has a good idea what the X is. X is the outside receiver. Downfield guy, Chase, Jefferson, that's the X. CeeDee Lamb, There you go.
Okay.
Now it gets more complicated. What's a Z receiver? Well, the Z receiver is typically, it's not the slot guy. The Z receiver is opposite the X. You're going to line up on the other side of the field, usually on the same side as the Y. The Y is typically the tight end. So that you're going to see the receiver on the same side as the tight end. That's the Z. And then the slot receiver is going to be on either side, but set off. It's going to be set off a yard off the line of scrimmage. That's where that receiver lines up. So it's going to be on one side or the other. So when you're going into 11 personnel, which you see a lot of teams, 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 receivers, right? And so you'll see a combination of 2x2 with the tight end. You'll see a 3x1. You'll see, it just depends. So when you look at these grouping, who fits into the X? Williams, Booty, Baker, to me. Those are your X receivers to pick from. The Z receivers, opposite, Diggs, Bourne, Hollins, Polk, to pick.
Yep.
Slot guys, to me, it's Douglas and it's Chisholm. Right?
Chisholm, by the way, is the undrafted wide receiver from Eastern Washington. For those of you who are not sure
Chisholm,
who he is.
The third. Thurston Howell. So,
oh my God. Listen, for those of you that weren't born 50 years ago, he's talking about Gilligan's Island.
He's so mean.
Jesus.
So, Mark, looking at this room, and I want to get your take on the room, who's there, and then we'll hear from Alex Barth and his take. I want to see if they match up. Who's making this? Who are the top 5 guys, 6 guys?
Obviously, Diggs is making the team. Obviously, right? If he's healthy, passes his physical, Diggs is making the team. The rookie Williams is making the team. Okay, then obviously that's a no-brainer. By all accounts, Pop Douglas is going to make the team. I can't see them, Chris, because they've made reference to this guy several times. I can't see them not keeping Mac Hollins because he's 6'3", 6'4", gives them something.
Yeah, he's the only guy with size on the
only guy
whole.
with size. They think he can do something in the red zone. He's been hurt. Not sure what the injury is, but he hasn't been at OTAs. Or maybe he's been there, but he's been on another field. No one has really seen much of him.
Yeah.
So you have to figure, Chris, Diggs, Williams, Douglas, and Hollins are on the team.
That's 4.
That's 4. I personally think they'll keep 6 receivers, which means you have a combination of Bourne, Polk, Baker, and this kid Chisholm.
Booty.
Forget about Booty. In my opinion, I keep Chisholm and I keep Booty. I'd make Bourne. You could save money save more money for the salary cap if you get rid of Bourne, and Baker and Polk aren't costing you anything. I mean, maybe one of them develops an injury in training camp, and you can put them on IR. That's always a possibility with Polk or Baker. The old Foxborough flu like Belichick used to have. All of a sudden, IR him. We'll give him a shot again next year. Go keep working, right?
So the starting lineup.
Those are my 6, Chris. Diggs, Williams, Douglas, Hollins, Butte, and Chisholm.
Okay. Let's hear what Alex Barth has to say. Joe.
Day depth chart at receiver. Well, Diggs looks like a guy who can be ready for week 1. Let's start there. I would not be surprised. I don't think he's 100% yet. Doesn't need to be 100% yet. That was an encouraging day yesterday for him. So he's going to be there. Pop Douglas is going to be there. XC slot. Okay, I think Kyle Williams ideally is their starting X.
Okay.
I think they like him as an X. You drafted the guy high, like top 100 pick. He should be out there in that role, and there's not a lot of competition there either.
He's the X. Douglas is the slot, obviously.
And then Diggs at the Z. I think that's their 11 personnel, ideally. And then just rounding out the roster, Mac Hollins, you feel like is going to be here. They paid him. He has that leadership tangent. He plays special teams. They need size. It's a small room, and he's a big guy, so he'll be here.
Yep.
And I think Kendrick Bourne's going to be here. Josh McDaniels has a good working relationship with him. He's now 2 years removed from that knee injury. He showed good chemistry with Drake May last year. And then it's a matter of if they carry a 6, To me, it's going to be the two guys that make the most sense are Keyshawn Boutte. And then if he continues, huge if he continues, Efton Chisholm.
Okay. Before we get to Chisholm, okay. I don't understand why Kendrick Bourne is getting this love. I don't know where it comes from. Even when he was healthy, I mean, he had one good year with us, but he's never really given you, 600, 400 yards, 500, 300 yards. What are you getting from this guy? I'm not sure
I don't know
you
what
need this guy.
I don't know what the romancing of this guy is. It's every year, Chris. You hear the same thing about him. I don't understand it.
He's a nice guy, but So for me, if I'm breaking it down by position, yeah, Williams is probably going to start at the X.
and is he an X? We have questioned. You and I know all these so-called, media experts, and I say that tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
They all say, oh, they got their X. Well, you and I have some doubts about that based on what we saw on his film in college. Maybe he proves us wrong, but
can't use his hands. He doesn't use his hands to get off anything. So we'll see. So it's either him or Boutte. So I think Boutte makes the team because of that. Okay. So those two. And then I think you got Diggs, of course. That's 3. I think Bourne is gone. Hollins is going to be there. That's 4. I think Polk is gone. I think Baker is gone. And I'm with you. Douglas and Chisholm. And honestly, I think Chisholm ends up being your starting slot guy at some point. I really do. I mean, not up front, but I see it happening because I think McDaniels is in love with this kid.
Yeah. Well, so Chris, he's a cross between Edelman, Amendola. Those are some of the comparisons that have been made in OTAs. But you bring up an interesting point with him, Chris. And
I usually bring up interesting points
when he's at the top of the route and he's got a stem.
Yeah.
You brought up an interesting point yesterday on Corso Catone on why you like Chisholm in comparison to what else you got in this room. Why don't you talk about that for a minute?
When we talk about wide receivers and we talk about Nakua, we talk about Ladd McConkey and those gauntlet drills, right?
Yep.
And about stemming routes. This kid, he gets separation at the top of routes. Now he's doing it with shorts and t-shirts on, okay? But his line, how linear he is, how crisp his route is, and when he gets to the top of the route where his break is, he's getting separation on everybody right now because his stem is so crisp. There's no lean. There's no cheat. So the corners can't really cheat, on him. Now the question becomes, once contact happens, when pads go on, if he's still getting separation at the top of routes with contact at that top, oh yeah, he's making this team. I mean, and he's in option routes, and he's doing this with the ones. And when they're running a lot of option routes, and he hasn't, that's why he caught 7 passes. Because he's not choosing wrong. He's right where he should be, and he's picking up the offense. This kid's going to make the team. I mean,
You had made reference to Chris. At this stage, maybe he's the kid Berrios, right? But I think you and I both think he'll be much better than that. But that was just a quick comparison you made yesterday on the show.
Yeah, he runs a 4.7, but I mean, he runs a 4.7. I get that, but in a phone booth, he's fat. He's quick.
He's quick. Yeah.
So the comparison of McCaffrey, I said that yesterday on the show. That I read a couple of weeks ago. Now the comparison is Cooper Kupp. So I mean, if he can look like Cooper Kupp, I mean,
they went to the same school. So
I know.
So we'll see what happens there, and then some of the rest of the stuff we want to get to Pat's preview now. But you talked a little bit about Marrone, Dowling, some offensive guys are putting in some plays that McDaniels not accustomed to and familiar with. And so he's showing his ability to expand this offense a little. You make anything of that? You think it's because this wasn't really Vrabel's guy, or he wanted the interim head coach from Chicago, who's here now as the OC, but the ownership wanted McDaniel. I mean, you make anything of that, or
you just got to create?
Or do you want to put a pin in it for next week?
It's OTAs. Put a pin in it for next week, and we'll elaborate on it. But listen, when McDaniels came, Chris, he said he was open to new stuff. He's made reference early on, Chris, that I'm learning from the new guys here. I'm learning different things. We're really collaborating, and everybody's coming from a different place. So we'll put a pin in it. But I think McDaniels has been open to some new ideas and seeing how they play out. And well, let's see if it works, guys. Right?
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll pay attention to it every single week. But Coach's Corner was presented by Corso and Catone, the real deal New England Field, Saturdays, noon Eastern. Got it all. Catone's comments, Yankees, Red Sox, Bruins, Celtics. So make sure you're tuning into that. But when we come back, going to go into Pat's preview, talk some linebackers, and say goodbye to a Patriots captain. 20 seconds. Right back. The real deal New England Field. What does that mean? We're like you. We're going to bitch about everything.
My opinion, our draft, the good, the bad, it was ugly.
These people, Mark, drive me freaking insane. Bananas.
It's so frustrating and aggravating. I can't take it.
The real deal New England Field. It's going to be real. Back in with more Pat's Nation. All right, let's talk about the linebacker room a little bit. We'll do it in Pat's preview. Joe?
Pat's preview.
Okay, got the Rothsteins out for this.
Here it is. It's real now.
Well, you want me to see, right? Okay. So, Mark, talking about the linebacker room. Now, last week we touched on it a bit. We talked about the defensive line. So, talking about the whole front seven, we've discussed the D front.
Yep.
But looking at these linebackers, this is my favorite group. By the way, Jelani Tavai, I don't want anyone to be injured. Let me just say that. But he's injured till sometime in training camp. But I got to be honest, I'm not sure how much he's seeing the field anyway. You know?
Well, I was going to say, Chris, you really haven't heard his name much. Okay, he got hurt. And I don't know. What did he hurt? Did he hurt a calf or hamstring? What the I don't even know what it was. Yeah.
I don't know. But so we'll see. But yeah, maybe it is. Okay, so the room is looking like this. You got Chasen, you got Ellis, you got Gibbons, you got Jennings, you got Landry, some of the other guys like a rookie, you got Ponder, you got Rice, you got Riley, Spillane, Swinson, and Tavai. This is your linebacking room. Okay. Now
Swinson, Chris.
Yeah.
And Landry, are they really linebackers or are they more edge guys?
Edge. Well, I will say Landry's more a linebacker. He can play off ball some. Like you'll drop him into coverage. You can do that with Landry.
Okay.
And everybody's pretty hyped up on Landry, but he's a professional pass rusher.
Yes.
That's about as much as I'll give him.
Yes, I agree with that.
I'll
agree with that.
This guy's not coming off the edge. I'm expecting a lot more from Keon White, who's a defensive end, but he's going to play on the edge in that even front. So when I look at these linebackers, and let's really talk off ball for a minute, okay? Mm-hmm. And the two pickups, obviously Spillane. I mean, who are going to be the starters here? You think it's going to be that Chasen and then Spillane?
I think so.
Who they picked up. I
think so. And the other kid, who's the other kid from the Texans, from the Titans they picked up, Chris? It was Spillane, Chesham, and who else? The other kid.
Well, give me a second. But because you got it's going to be those two guys, by the way.
Okay.
But
right.
you got Ellis in that mix too.
Yep.
I can't. Even with the glasses, I can't see well.
See a thing.
I still can't see well. I mean, and I know you can't see anything. So, but they got Monty Rice.
Okay.
And they got Elijah Ponder too, and so again. But I think that's going to be the core, and I guess when Tavai comes back, he'll spell some guys. But you kept talking about Tavai not being an off-ball guy anyway, that he had to be on the edge, and he's not going to see time with Jennings. And so this group together, they got better. I mean, they got much. They couldn't be worse. Here's a name I'll throw in that he's been working over there and looking pretty good. Mapu.
I thought he's playing linebacker. He's playing free safety.
They put Mapu over at linebacker. Okay, kind of been playing without a position. I like him at free safety.
Yeah, and I thought he was getting some play, Chris, the first week of OTAs at free safety.
He is, but he also has been seen at linebacker at sometimes during the spring. He's smaller, but he's athletic. You see, this is what they're looking for. This defense is looking for athletes now, guys that can fill gaps, guys that can make defensive linemen right.
Yeah. And the other kid, Chris, I was
sideline
thinking
to
of,
sideline.
Yeah. The other kid I was thinking of, Chris, was Jack Gibbons. From the Titans. And I think he's another one of those guys, Chris, that is a sideline to sideline, quick, athletic linebacker.
Yeah, 4-year pro out of Minnesota. Yeah. So I think that combination of off ball with Spillane,
Gibbons, what they want, they should have drafted your guy from Georgia.
Oh, we're going to talk about that now.
Anyway,
yeah. Well,
go ahead. So
they're allergic. They're allergic to speed. They're allergic to speed and guys that can get sideline to sideline and go attack. They're allergic to that. We can't have that.
So who do you see, Chris, as the top 4 linebackers, 5 linebackers, 4 linebackers?
Well, taking out the outside for a minute, because you'll see Landry and White that are going to be playing on the outsides at the wide nine.
Yep.
And Jennings will spell them. But interior, off ball, it's going to be Chasen. It's going to be your guy Gibbons. It's going to be
Spillane,
and Ellis. These are the guys that I think
those are the 4 guys.
I think Pavai is relegated at this point.
Yeah, he'll be a backup somewhere. He'll be even if he didn't get hurt.
I don't think you're going to see Pavai. I think you're going to see him go on to IR. Something's going to happen like that with him with this injury.
Okay.
I think is going to happen with him. But that's going to be your off-ball guys. And I'm okay with that because these guys are athletes, especially Spillane. He's a smart, heady football player out there.
There he is.
And that's the kind of guy you want.
He's a guy, Chris, that you're going to give the green dot to probably, right?
Yeah. And if they have a busy safety room, and next week we're going to talk corners and safeties, if they have a real busy safety room, a lot of guys, then maybe Mapu spells and over at linebacker and uses that athleticism to go sideline to sideline, Mark.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. So, he'd be a bit undersized, but yeah, maybe.
Well, I mean, and you can also bring these guys in packages. So now if you go on an odd front, they're going to play an even front. They're going to play 3 gap, wide nines, 4 down linemen. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
With 2 linebackers most of the time, because you're going to have a nickel package with 5 defensive backs. Typically that's what you'll see with 2 linebackers. And those guys will be Gibbons and Spillane or Chasen, and that's what you'll see. But when they go to an odd front with 3 linemen and Tonga comes in at the nose, and you see stuff like that happening, now you got an extra linebacker on the field. That's where you could see maybe when they need an athlete out there, maybe Mapu comes in, so he kind of looks like a box safety, and you stick Duggar and Peppers back. So it'll come together. But I think overall this front 7 is going to be a hell of a lot better, Mark, than they were last year. They can't get worse.
No,
that linebacker course sucked.
No, they're definitely going to be, Chris. And he brought in guys because he knew that the linebacking course sucked. That's why, hence, he brings in Chasen, Gibbons, Spillane,
right?
Landry. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we'll pay attention. Next week, we're going to talk safeties and corners, and then we'll pull the whole defense together and let you know what we think, what they're going to run in a little more detail on that. But before we go, got to say bye to a Patriot captain. We played 9-10 years with the Patriots, right? 9 years.
Undrafted, right?
Undrafted David Andrews gave a real emotional goodbye in his press conference, in his retirement press conference. He thanked everybody.
Yeah.
But he also thanked the game. Thanked the game of football. That's what those kind of guys do.
Of course they do.
Talking about 9 years.
He's one of those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. 2 rings. Guy had 14 holding calls in total, 4 false starts in 124 games, 8-year captain. So we say goodbye. Hats off to David Andrews. Enjoy your retirement. You certainly earned it. You deserve everybody's respect, including ours. But we have to go. The Pats Nation was presented. Who the hell are we presented by? Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England Field, Saturdays at noon. Make sure we're going to have more Pats talk, Yankees, Red Sox, Catone's comments. We'll let them talk next week. And come back next weekend to this show, 8 a.m. Eastern. Going to have our cornerback, safety breakdown, and so much more. We are the Pats Nation. Hey, enjoy your Sunday. Mark, stop drinking, will you please?
All right.